Who sent the Chinese balloons, and what will happen next? On January 28th, a mysterious object entered the U.S. airspace through Canada. The flying object was massive, as big as 3 buses, and it slowly changed its course. The locals described it as a giant white orb as it loitered in the air above Billings, Montana. Soon, the object was identified as a balloon, which the U.S. Defense Department termed as a Chinese spy balloon. On February 4th, near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, the balloon was shot down by a U.S. F-22 jet, firing a $400,000 worth missile at it. February 5th, and debris retrieval begins. The balloon was found to be remarkably intact, despite the fall from 60,000 feet. The debris recovered was handed over to the FBI for further investigation. But who sent the so-called Chinese balloon? Was it really part of a Chinese surveillance mission? What will happen next? Hello and welcome to Viral Bits. Keep watching to the end of this video, as we'll spend the following few minutes searching for all the answers. Was it a weather balloon? As the United States Defense Department scrambled to investigate the spy balloon, Chinese officials responded by saying that it was a weather balloon. Their claim was that it's a civilian airship used for research, a mere meteorological research balloon that had blown off its course. They also said that it was not in their control and could not be maneuvered. However, a typical weather balloon is far smaller and lighter than this balloon. Weather forecasting balloons, also known as radiosonde balloons, typically carry a radiosonde payload that weighs around 200 grams. This payload contains sensors and instruments that measure various atmospheric conditions, such as temperature, humidity, pressure, and wind speed. It is lightweight and has a flight time between 90 to 120 minutes, during which the radiosonde will transmit data back to a receiving station on the ground. This data is then used to create weather forecasts and to monitor atmospheric conditions. On the other hand, the object flying over the U.S. was worth calling an airship. The Chinese balloon was more than 1,000 tons heavy, and some even said that it had propellers, which meant that it could very well be controlled. Furthermore, these balloons can remain up to 200 days in the air. Some news channels even reported that it was surveilling nuclear warheads in Montana. All these apprehensions led the U.S. forces to take it down over the coast of South Carolina. One thing was clear: it was not a typical weather balloon. Who sent it, and was it a surveillance balloon? There is no doubt that the balloon was Chinese and was, therefore, sent by China. The U.S. Defense Department also confirmed that it was a spy balloon. They claimed that it had multiple antennas to include an array, likely capable of collecting and geolocating communications. It was equipped with solar panels large enough to produce the requisite power to operate multiple active intelligence collection sensors. This information, along with the size of the balloon, confirmed that it was not a typical balloon but a surveillance one. But why a balloon? You must be thinking, China has a whole satellite system in space, but why would it experiment with balloons? The answer was given by U.S. officials, who described that the balloons have some advantages over the satellites that orbit the Earth in regular patterns. This is especially true when it comes to consistent surveillance and data collection. This is because, number 1, balloons can fly at lower altitudes than satellites, which means they can collect data and imagery at closer range, providing higher resolution images and more detailed information on ground-level conditions. Number 2, balloons are also more mobile than satellites, as they can be directed by wind patterns, making them useful for monitoring and tracking events in remote or mobile areas. Number 3, moreover, since balloons are not in fixed orbits like satellites, they can be more difficult to track by radar and may be able to evade detection. Number 4, additionally, since balloons can remain stationary over a particular area for a longer period of time, they may be better suited for persistent surveillance than satellites, which are in constant motion. Hence, we know that at least the idea of a surveillance balloon is not really a bad one, but it is definitely a kamikaze mission because it would always be shot down. It is really a confusing matter, especially since it has drifted US and China farther from each other. Let me explain how. US-China relations take a blow. The hot air balloon incident has left many scratching their heads. It seems unlikely that anyone was questioning China's ability to master such a technology. So why would they feel the need to publicly demonstrate it? And why at such a sensitive time, when the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, was preparing to visit China for high-level talks? Some speculate that China wanted to flex its military muscle and show the U.S. what it's made of, while others believe it was simply a coincidence. Whatever the reason, the move seemed to backfire, as the U.S. government responded by publicly announcing the incident, and Secretary of State Blinken postponed his trip to China. But the plot thickens. The Pentagon claims to have been tracking the balloon for some time, so why make a big deal out of it suddenly? Was it an opportunity to show off their own surveillance capabilities and send a message to China? Or was it just a matter of national security? Either way, it looks like it could have been a stunt by either state to sabotage the Blinken visit. Tensions remain high. The tensions between the US and China remain high, and there are many issues that need to be resolved before the two countries can find a way to work together. Although, the U.S. Secretary of State did meet his Chinese counterpart, Wang Yi, in Munich on February 18th, but the meeting did not dilute the U.S. national security concerns. In fact, things got worse as Blinken warned Yi that if China supported Russia with lethal support, then it would harm the relationship between the two states. By lethal support, he meant everything from ammunitions to larger weapons. In short, U.S.-China ties are going through a rough time. This also created room for speculation. Could it be that the USA wanted to show China its disapproval over the Chinese attempt to support Russia? But did it really need to use a Sidewinder missile from an F-22 on a stratospheric balloon to do that? Best guess? No. The story here is about shooting down stratospheric balloons because they are becoming an important part of the Chinese surveillance fleet. The New York Times reported that the Chinese Army, or PLA, published an article in its main military newspaper that balloons are a powerful eye in the sky for covering low altitude and surface targets. In the future, balloon platforms may become, like submarines in the depths of the ocean, a chilling hidden killer. Staying true to the balloon business, we must admit that stratospheric balloons can be a real threat if remain undetected. In fact, they fill the gaps left by the satellite system and can even study the atmospheric conditions for better future targeting. This does sound like a security threat now, doesn't it? There is little doubt that superpowers do a continuous surveillance of each other. The issue that hyped the balloon contingency was the Blinken visit to China. Such diplomatic visits between the two states carry a lot of significance, especially when we look just one government back and see President Trump's attitude toward China. In fact, there were 3 other UFOs shot down by the US after shooting down the Chinese spy balloon, but those were not made into such big news. There are so many views about why the USA decided to use the balloon controversy to halt the visit indefinitely. What do you think happened? Let us know in the comments section. Was this a distraction to cover for the Ohio Trail derailment? A warning to stop Chinese lethal support to Russia? Or a genuine security concern because stratospheric balloons are dangerous? So, what do you think?